Hi, guys. Thank you so much for joining us today.
Thanks for having us.
Hello, hello.
Yes. So, John and Kit, tell me a little bit about your experience as an Airbnb host and how you all create a safe haven for LGBTQ plus travelers in your homes.
Well, we moved out to Joshua Tree about 2 years ago at the tail end of the pandemic. And we renovated a 1950s homestead on 5 acres in the middle of nowhere off a dirt road and just fell in love with the renovation process. So instead of moving back to LA, we moved to a different house in Joshua Tree and renovated that. And work brings us back here pretty regularly. Like I just finished shooting my first feature film as a director.
Oh, cool.
So I'm going to be here. Thank you. I'm going to be here for at least 3 months. And it doesn't make sense to have the houses be empty. So we wanted to share our homes with other travelers. And we wanted to make sure that they were a safe space for LGBTQ plus travelers in particular, because that's something that we always look for when we're traveling.
Yeah, absolutely. And so far, the Airbnb experience has been great. We fell in love with the desert when we started visiting Palm Springs and Joshua Tree over 10 years ago. So it's been so cool to have our own little corner of it and now to get to share it with other people.
And so for our viewers who might not know, where is Joshua Tree? Kind of educate us a little bit.
So Joshua Tree is in the high desert, which is north of Palm Springs, about 45 minutes. It's a very different but similar experience in different ways. Like a lot of people go out there to kind of get out of LA or to sit by a pool. But the high desert is a little bit weirder, a little bit more eccentric, and has Joshua trees, which are the coolest plants on the planet.
And it's only about 2 hours and 20 minutes from both Los Angeles and San Diego. So it's a really easy weekend trip for people here in Southern California.
So can you all describe your property a little bit? What does it mean to you?
So we have 2 listings. One is Eldorado Oasis, which is a 1950s homestead on a dirt road on 5 acres on the Mesa. And then we have Benicia Oasis, which is kind of Palm Springs meets Joshua Tree. It's a 3-bedroom, 3-bath pool house, which is more in town. And Joshua Tree is an especially meaningful place for us because we got married out there.
It's one of our favorite places on earth, and it was so cool to bring together our closest friends and family to really have the best, most magical day. We bust out to the most beautiful vista in Keys View in Joshua Tree National Park, had sort of a pop-up wedding celebration, and then went back to a house for a beautiful little reception. So that's part of the reason that Joshua Tree is so special to us.
Are there any kind of like unique features or amenities that you all provide to create that welcoming environment specifically for your LGBTQ plus visitors?
We think it's really important that the language in your listing makes sure that you signal that you're welcoming to everybody. And of course, obviously, we put ourselves on our listing so that that there's no secret here. This is Airbnb owned by a gay couple. And obviously, we're welcoming because we would want to be welcomed ourselves.
Yeah, if you go to the house's Instagram accounts, you'll definitely see us being gay cowboys or heroes. So
there's no doubt in anyone's mind, right?
We call it our desert drag, our cowboy drag, whatever you want to call it.
Well, you kind of talked a little bit about that language. Can you give us an example of what that language sounds like so that other people may be like, you know what, let me do the same thing too?
Right, just that you're welcoming to all guests, regardless of their backgrounds, their sexual orientation, or gender identity. We want to make sure that people know that everyone is welcome in our home.
Okay. And could you all share any kind of memorable stories or experiences from an LGBTQ plus traveler who may have stayed at your Airbnb that really just touched your heart?
Well, I could say just this morning, we got a message from a guest who's checking in this weekend who wanted to point out that they are a queer couple. And part of the reason they were going with our house was that they saw that we were a queer couple as owners and we have a queer couple who manages the property. So I think that was cool to see that, it was helped get us these guests to book our place this weekend.
And as we all know, the LGBTQ plus community is very diverse in its own right. So how has hosting this community enriched your own understanding and appreciation for diversity?
Well, you get to see people from a distance, obviously. We're not up in anybody's business, but it is great to be able to kind of learn when somebody is coming out for an anniversary or a special occasion, or reuniting with old friends. People sometimes like to share those sorts of details when they're booking the listing, and it's always nice to know that people are having an important life event in a place that you love.
We had some friends getting married this past weekend, and leading up to the wedding, they wanted to get away with their wedding party. So they went and stayed at our place for a few days leading up to the wedding.
For a few days or a few days?
A few days. So it's cool to know that, our house will be part of their wedding memories for the rest of their lives. It's really, really cool to be a part of memories like that.
They're gay wedding memories.
Yeah. And so how do you both see the role of an Airbnb in, promoting equality and acceptance in the travel industry overall?
Well, I think it's really important to note that Airbnb as a platform is, making inclusivity a priority. That's part of the reason why we're talking to you today is because they're really actively trying to promote their policies and their non-discrimination policies as well. So knowing that you have the support of the platform behind you is really important, especially in a time when a lot of, gestures from corporations feel a little hollow this Pride season.
Yeah.
In Joshua Tree, you're starting to see more and more pride flags on business windows and doors and hanging outside the stores. So it's cool that Airbnb is part of that effort in Joshua Tree to let travelers know that they are welcome there.
What do you all think other hosts and individuals in the travel industry can learn from the success and the impact of using affirming language to cultivate a safe and positive environment?
I guess I would just say, don't necessarily assume that everyone assumes that your place is a welcoming place. It's good to just throw in a sentence or two making that clear, because it doesn't necessarily go without saying. It's good to say it out loud.
Well, especially depending on where you are in the world, right? Like we take for granted, I think, in a place like Los Angeles that everybody's going to be welcoming, which also isn't always the case, by the way. But I come from Mississippi, and if I were to be looking for an Airbnb to visit family down there and I saw inclusive language, I would feel especially safe to make that decision to book that listing.
We've done a lot of work to sort of stem discrimination on the front end. And when I say that, I mean in the booking process, when you're searching for a home, when you're accepting a guest, or when you're communicating with your host. We've done a lot of work on that front. Where we know there's always sort of more of a challenge is what happens when you arrive at a home. And that's why sort of those last mile, the sort of zero, tolerance for any sort of discrimination, and our commitment to making sure that we get you rebooked immediately is really, really important, because we never want that to be what stops you from having a great vacation, an important work trip, a family reunion, whatever it might be.
And I guess, to help kind of bring this conversation together and wrap things up on a positive note, are there any host stories or guest stories that resonate with you that, that really touch your heart when it comes to an inclusive experience?
Yeah, when I first started at Airbnb back in 2015, and I was living in San Francisco at the time, met this young guest who had come to San Francisco. He had recently come out. He was 22, and he stayed with an older gay couple in the Castro. And it was amazing, sort of talking to him after that experience. He had actually traveled from Chile, and we later made a short, sort of internal video about his experience, because it was really clear that, coming to San Francisco for Pride weekend, staying with a couple for whom, San Francisco Pride was such an important part of their life and their experience, was a really, really special way to experience San Francisco. At Airbnb, we have great respect for others in the hospitality industry. But I think when it comes to those sort of transformative experiences when you're visiting a place, there's nothing quite like staying with a local and with someone who can show you the city through their own eyes. And I think that's particularly true when it comes to visiting a new city, for Pride. There's probably no better way to see San Francisco than, through the eyes of someone else.
And thanks so much for watching Advocate today. Download the app in the Apple or Google Play Store to stream us live, and you can subscribe to our YouTube channel. For the Advocate channel, I'm Aaron Dean.